Last but not least, Matt Kasanka.
I'm sure the nationalists. We're off to a good start here. I'm just going to leave it before I screw something up. Well, I just wanted to start by thanking everybody for coming out and just thanking the Sloan community and Tim and everybody who made this possible. I don't think I speak for myself when I say that the yard has been one of the most fantastic experiences I've had here at Sloan. So, and I'm just honored to speak to you all here today. So thank you for that. And as I was hearing Ashley and Sean speak, I was trying to reconcile what they said with what I'm going to talk about here tonight, that we are human, we are mortal, and that in a lot of senses we don't have control. But I'm going to have a different message, but I think it works well with them. It sounds different at first, but when you actually think about it, they actually meld all together. So I'm going to talk to you about fighting for what you believe in and speaking up, and how that the only way we're going to really be able to do this is if we have one another. So speaking up, and we absolutely need one another in order to do it. So for those of you who don't know me, first off, I need to meet you because I only have 2 weeks left. but I'm LGO, so I hear I have an excuse anyway. So. No, okay. Yeah, so I grew up in Northwest Indiana. I went to school at Purdue, and I worked in a steel mill out there. And you know, as far as being in the middle of nowhere goes, I was kind of like a kid in a candy shop. So I had a boss who was 35, but he behaved like a 21-year-old. We were both very close to one another. And in my commute to work, I often tell people this, but it was a 30-minute commute, and along that route there was 3 casinos and 7 strip clubs that I got to drive by every single day. And my boss and I went to some. And so for those of you who don't know what the steel industry is, in some ways it's like what The Simpsons describes, but it's really not. But on a serious note, so like I said, my boss and I were very close. We would go out to some of those locations and we'd go out and party and stuff like that. But steel equals heavy industry, which equals very dangerous manufacturing. And I still remember one day, my boss brought me to the office to describe one time that he had to stay behind over the weekend and work on some equipment there. And he was kind of confiding in me during that time. And he described the fixing of the piece of equipment. It wasn't exactly like Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade, where like the boulders chasing you down and there's like people shooting darts at you as you're trying to fix everything and go through it. But what he did describe was a very dangerous experience for him. The union would not do the job because the union workers said it was too dangerous. And this actually happened often in my mill. So if something was so dangerous that the union wouldn't do it, it was either held up for a while or the lower levels of management would do it. Now, I tell this a lot more seriously than how it was told back then. Mamet was kind of joking about it. If you know heavy industry, I do not look like anybody else who works in heavy industry. Typically they have 40 years of experience, they're old guys. Sean Bonowitz looked very good to me the first time I was here, and I have a beautiful wife at the same time. So imagine that. But anyways, the point that I'm trying to make here is that people have been doing these jobs for a long time. It's the way that they've been doing it for a while, and they kind of joke in a sense that it's dangerous. And you know, coming in, I was scared. You know, I heard something that didn't sound right to me, and I knew I should speak up. You know, somewhere in the back of my head, they're saying, this is stupid. They have 30 years of experience, but they don't know, they don't see how dangerous it is. You know, my boss thought it was okay. Other management thought it was okay. Like I said, this is the way they're doing it every 20 years. And, you know, like I said, you have that feeling in the back of your head that you should do something, but then you're a scared kid at the same time. So I came up with a lot of excuses not to speak up. And it's so easy just to not do anything. It's easy to go on with your daily lives and think about what you saw, was screwed up, but you just kind of pass it off. So I didn't speak up. And it's funny, I go around the city this weekend, and I saw a lot of quotes that reminded me of my situation, so I'll read a couple of them. So I went to the Holocaust Memorial this weekend, and this is by no means anywhere close to the Holocaust, but one quote rang true to me. So it talks about somebody who was living in the time. He said, "First they came for the communists, but I was not a communist, so I did not speak up. Then they came for the socialists and trade unions, but I was neither of those, so I did not speak up. Then they came for the Jews, and I was not a Jew, so I did not speak up again. And then they came for me, and by that time there's nobody else to speak up for me." I also happened to watch the Boondock Saints this weekend, one of my favorite movies, and they said there's an evil that you should fear more than evil men, and that is the indifference of good men. So it's interesting how things kind of work out like that. And what tends to happen in these situations is once you don't speak up, and once you work in a steel mill for 30 or 40 years, you come across the issue of what we call, in the safety field, is normalized deviance. So you continuously see things that are wrong, but you don't take offense to them anymore because they're normalized in your head. It's why you need fresh eyes in a process. I was those fresh eyes, and I did not speak up. A real life example of that was when my wife Janet and I moved in together. My definition of clean and hers were not at all anywhere close to one another. It was I lived in a house full of bats before this. She did not. For some reason, she thought living with bats was not clean, even though I had my own thing. But you get the point that I'm trying to make here. You live with something long enough and you just get used to it. So I didn't speak up that one time, and as I look back on my time during the steel mill, there were multiple occasions where more things went on, but it got easier and easier to not speak up after you do it the first time. And I kept coming up with excuses. So the mill, and I love my old company. I don't think they did anything wrong. I think this is just human nature. They said safety was their number one priority. They would work at it. They would start every meeting with a safety share, but I still remember what we're saying in meetings does not translate out to the shop, and it takes somebody just speaking up to start doing something about it. So I wrote down all of my excuses. We can go over them later, but I kept coming up with more excuses. I could have spoken up, but I didn't. So my boss is still alive, but 3 months after I left, on November 15th, 2011, one of my coworkers, Gabe, he died at the age of 53, working out there. A steam pipe burst and sent him flying 200 feet. And gave him third-degree burns over about 55% of his body. He had 32 years of experience. So, like I said, we've been doing it for the last 32 years. We know the right way to do it. He had one wife and 3 kids, and the sad part is that Gabe will have a cross, well, he already does, at my mill with about 25 others who have passed away working at that mill, just at that one location. So steel is very dangerous. My reaction to this is what scared me the most. I was not surprised when I heard that somebody had died, especially a coworker. I knew him. I worked in the same area he did. I was not surprised because of what I had told you earlier. And you always hear people talking about it. You're working next to liquid steel. Everybody talked about how dangerous the job was, but it wasn't just me not willing to speak up. Everybody was not willing to speak up about certain things. So my reaction was not surprised. And when I thought about that in hindsight, it made me sick, it made me sad, and I was scared. Because this is not going to be the only time I see something that I don't like, and I have an opportunity to speak up against a complete culture where I may be the odd man out. I will see these issues again. We all will see these issues again. It's not just me, I think it's everybody in this room. So where's the positive light? And my aha moment kind of came one day when I was in a meeting with Sloanies and we were talking about what Sloan means to us. And Steve Harrington was in that room. And I remember saying that we're going to be facing these things out in industry as individuals in a culture that tells us one thing, but something that we know is not right. So there is going to be no I anymore. Not because I have the support of my wonderful wife, which is great, but I have the support of all of you at the same time. So number one, professionally, so if I speak up and I get fired, I have a room of 250 people that might want to hire me in the future, so that's a very positive thing. And this is true, actually. I was talking to Sloanies who graduated about 10 years ago, and they've switched jobs about 3 or 4 times and have not had to update their resume since they graduated Sloan. So I love the CDO. All the things they told us about our resumes are hopefully not going to be relevant after we leave here, which is good. But what's more important is that I will have you all to lean on from a very personal standpoint, so that it won't be just I speaking up anymore. It'll be we speaking up in these situations. So I see classmates that I know I can lean on, that I can call on years down the road, and we will speak up. So my closing thoughts to you, so my advice, and it's the same advice you've heard over and over again, is to love your classmates and to make these long-lasting personal and professional relationships. Because if I am the person that speaks up, I believe that I will fail, and I believe that I will fail again if it's just I. But if it's we speaking up, we have a chance, and not only do we have a chance, but we have an obligation. We have an obligation for Gabe, we have an obligation to my boss, who is still working there, and we have an obligation to the world. We are the future leaders, is what they keep telling us, and we are going to be the future leaders because the world needs us. So thank you very much for your support, and I look forward to meeting the ones I haven't met yet. So thank you.
So that's it for tonight. Can we give one more round of applause for all of our speakers? Thank you guys so much for coming. I just want to take a quick second to recognize the 2013 Yarn organizers. Akanksha, Sean, Sahana, Kyun, and Bijol. Thank you so much for we definitely have huge shoes to fill as we continue the Yarn tradition. Thank you guys so much for all your stories tonight, and thanks everyone for being here on such a busy week. Have a good night.